Hello mouses! As long-time viewers will already know, I'm currently in a court battle with Google over their suspension of my AdSense account after a guy used a clickbot on me. I'm in England and Google Ireland are the ones that run the AdSense accounts for Google in the whole of Europe. So the process of suing Google is a bit more complex than simply going down to the local court and filing papers. So aside from people saying, how's the court case going? It's going alright, by the way. They've also asked me, how do you sue someone who's in Ireland when you're not in Ireland? Well, the process is run through what's called the European Small Claims Procedure, and it's a fairly straightforward procedure, so this video is going to explain how to do it. First of all, you've got to make sure that your claim is not valued at more than €2,000, which is about £1,723. If it is, then you can't use the European Small Claims Procedure. You can file under it, but it will be processed differently. So, now that you've got your valuation, and if it's under €2,000, you can go ahead and fill in what's called Form A. I've put a link to that and all the other forms that you might need in the description bar below. This form is fairly straightforward. It asks for your details, the defendant's details, the particulars of the claim and things like that. What are the particulars of claim? They're basically the summary details. You don't have to go to town on this. It doesn't have to be a massive document. In fact, you don't have an awful lot of space. So you have to summarise what their claim is about, and then you get to add all of your details in a separate sheet. So basically, put all of your details in as succinctly as possible in that box, and then put all of the blanks filled in the supporting documents. For example, if you've got a breach of contract case, what you would state is that the case is for breach of contract, and then you would explain what part of the contract was breached. And that's really it. That's all the judge needs to see, so that they can work out whether the case that you're trying to bring is actually something that they can look at under the Small Claims Procedure rules. Aside from that, what are supporting documents? Well, this is basically the documentation that shows all of your evidence. The European Small Claims Procedure is mostly written based. It's not an oral thing. You can be called to make oral testimony, but it's unlikely that will happen because due to the fact that the defendant and claimant will be in different countries, then it really is difficult to get a hearing together. So most of it is done through written evidence. So your supporting documents will include all of the contract details if you've got a breach of contract, medical reports if you've got a claim for injury and things like that. Something that proves what you're trying to say. Now that you've got those, you have to put together a summary of your case, which is basically point 1, blah blah blah, point 2, blah blah blah, and it's a set of points. And this lays out the exact timeline of what happened and also what you're actually claiming for. For example, if you have a contract with X and they breach it, you have to say that they have breached this contract. But that's not enough. You've got to also say they've breached which section of the contract. That's the important part. If you can't say which section they've breached, it's going to cause a lot of problems for the judge, and that increases the likelihood that they can't find which part you think they've breached. So lay everything out as best you can, and in your timeline, refer back to the evidence that you've already collated to support what you're saying, so it's obvious that you are claiming exactly what happened. And that way you improve your likelihood of getting the case both heard and found in your favour. One thing to remember, if anything is ambiguous and you're trying to rely on that ambiguity as a way of prosecuting or defending a case, then the judge is required, under the way the law works, for ambiguities, they're always going to be found against the person who is trying to claim them. For example, if you're claiming breach of contract and the other person is claiming that there's an ambiguity in the contract that suggests that they haven't breached, the judge will not find in their favour, because they are using an ambiguity to their advantage. The judge will find, oh, you can't do that, and find in your favour. That's how ambiguities work, but it could go the other way. Okay, now that you've got your supporting documents, your statement of case, and you've filled in Form A, you have to make 3 copies of each thing. 1 copy is for you, 1 copy is for the court, and 1 copy is for the defendant. You'll have to take all 3 copies to the court. They will then be processed as one thing, so you only have to pay for this once. It doesn't matter that you've sent in 3 copies. And they will put the case to a judge. The judge can then look at all 3 copies, make sure that everyone is getting all of the same information on each thing, so that you're not keeping something back from the defence or adding something into the judge's copy that makes it more obvious that the defendant is guilty and things like that, but aren't showing it to the defendant and things. It's just little things like that. It's also there so that everything is clear and the judge can work out what the case is, whether it's worth taking further, and then if it is, you will process it and it goes on for trial. You will then get your copy sent back to you. The defendant will get their copy as well. The defendant has 30 days to respond to this document that you've sent, and if they do respond, then the judge brings it back and you get a copy. They can respond, however, with a counterclaim, which is something that is interesting. They would fill in their own version of Form A, and then you would get a copy of that along with the rest of their defence, and then you have 30 days to respond to the counterclaim. If you don't respond, then the judge can look at it as, oh, you're not responding, so we've got to go on just the evidence that the counterclaim states. So if you get a counterclaim, do respond. Now, when you get back the defence's documentation, you can respond. You have a right to respond whether they've got a counterclaim or not. You could send in other information. That then puts it back another 30 days for the judge to take that, process it, send it back to the defendant. And then after that time, the judge can look at all of the evidence that has been collated in this case and make a decision. During the decision-making process, the judge himself can ask for more information. This can be done through written evidence or an oral testimony. It's unlikely to be oral, most of the time it's written, but sometimes it can need to be oral testimony. And then you have 30 days to respond to that, so it can go on and on and on. It's not a quick process, let's put it that way. But for the most part, it won't come to that, and what has already been submitted will be enough to decide the case. When the case has been decided, you can request a certificate of judgment. This is something that you just get if you fill in Form D. It doesn't cost anything more. Again, the form information is in the description bar below. And then that is a certificate that can be used to enforce a judgment anywhere in Europe. So if I'm in the UK and the defendant is in Ireland, I can use this certificate to enforce the judgment on the Irish courts. So that's pretty good. But most of the time it won't have to come to that, and the defendant will actually do what they're told in the decision. Okay, that's pretty much it. You fill in forms, submit information, wait for a decision. But if there is anything else that you need to know about this, then remember that I'm not going to be qualified to give you legal advice because I can't do that. But I can answer your questions based on my own experiences. So if you want to leave a question, put it in the description bar below and I'll see what I can do for you. But that's pretty much it from me, so thank you very much for watching. If you did like this, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they can see how you deal with European small claims as well, and do subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson, you've been watching An Odd Mouse Show, and I'll see you tomorrow.